The sky was a pale gray, heavy with the weight of impending doom. In the shadow of a ruined village, Captain Edward Hayes stood with his small band of soldiers. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. This wasn't just another battle. It was their last stand. Edward, a man of quiet strength, surveyed his men. There was Private Johnson, barely 19, clutching a lucky charm he had carried since childhood. Corporal Harris, the squad's steady hand, cleaned his weapon with a calmness that defied the chaos around them. And then there was Sergeant Blake, his oldest friend, who shared a look that spoke volumes. No words were needed, they both knew the odds. As the distant rumble of enemy tanks grew louder, Edward spoke, his voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. "We've been through worse," he said with a faint smile. "But if this is it, we'll make it count." Together, the soldiers nodded, their faces a mix of fear and determination. They were tired of fighting, tired of losing, but they had one another, and in that they found strength. When the first shell hit, the earth seemed to explode around them. The air was filled with smoke, dust, and the deafening roar of artillery. Edward barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. "Hold your ground. Stay together." The battle raged on. For every inch the enemy advanced, Edward's men pushed back twice as hard. They fought not for glory, but for survival, for the hope that maybe, just maybe, reinforcements would arrive. In the heart of the chaos, Edward found himself face to face with an enemy soldier. They were both young, both exhausted, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. It wasn't hatred that passed between them, but a shared weariness, an unspoken understanding of the cost of war. But there was no time for peace. The soldier raised his rifle and Edward acted on instinct. Hours felt like days. The enemy pressed harder, and Edward's squad grew smaller. One by one, his men fell, each loss a knife to his soul. By the time the dust settled, only Edward and Blake remained, their backs against a crumbling wall. Blake, bleeding but still defiant, laughed weakly. "Remember when we thought war would be heroic?" he said. Edward managed a grim smile. "We were fools." Just as the final wave approached, the distant sound of engines roared to life. Reinforcements, late, but there. The enemy began to retreat, their advance halted by the sudden arrival of fresh troops. Edward slumped to the ground, his body exhausted, his mind racing with the faces of those he had lost. Blake, beside him, gave a faint grin. "Looks like we made it." But the cost was clear. The battlefield was silent now, save for the whispers of the wind and the distant hum of trucks. Edward stood, looking out over the carnage, and muttered, "We held the line, but at what price?" War had taken much from him. Friends, peace, and pieces of himself. But as he watched the horizon light up with the colors of dawn, he realized something else. Even in the darkest moments, there is a flicker of hope, carried by the memories of those who fought beside you. Some stories of war are about victory, others about survival. This was about both, and the quiet courage it takes to endure when all seems lost.